good morning. It's a Sunday morning once again, and that means that it's time for the House Whisperers Show on WWDB Talk 860. I'm Barry Reisman, inviting you to stay tuned for expert advice about maintaining your house from the roof to the basement and everything in between. With a guy who tells us that every house has a story, professional home inspector Jack Milne. Hey, Jack, how you doing today?
Hey, great, Barry. This month is just flying by, but, one of the things I don't think that most people are aware of is July is supposed to be known as National Safety Month. So that's where I was going to dedicate my show today, just to, kind of look at things around our own home, some of the things that we may take for granted, and hopefully plant the seed that says, as soon as Jack's off the air, I'm going to do this or do that. But before I start, as probably most of you may be aware, I'm an avid reader of the Inquirer and other local newspapers to stay on top of what's happening around me. And last week I saw an article about home sales being the best since 2007. So I'd like to pass on this little blurb that I came upon. And it says, home sales are on pace for their best year since 2007. First-time buyers are streaming back into the market. Prices are skyrocketing, aided by a stronger job market and tantalizing low mortgage rates that are creating pressure for buyers to act fast. The National Association of Realtors said Monday that sales of existing homes climbed 5.1% last month to a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 5.35 million. May was the third consecutive month of sales where the sales rate exceeded 5 million homes. Yet listings have failed to match the greater demand, fueling larger price gains. So median home prices climbed 7.9% over the past 12 months to $228,700, about $1,700 shy of the July 2006 peak. About 32% of the homes sold last month went to first-time buyers, compared to 27% a year ago. The improvement is substantial, but still lags behind the historical average of first-time buyers, composing 40% of the market. And being a home inspector, I can tell you, we are providing home inspections to first-timers, but as well as last-timers. And we're looking at a large amount of both investment as well as commercial buildings. So right now we're still averaging between 40 to 50 buildings a week. And even now with the summer heat pounding down on all of us, the real estate market is just as hot. And the Fed is really not raising interest rates, even though the month of June is the time that they were going to hold this discussion. So I'm still hearing interest rates just a tad over 4%, like 4.01, 4.02. And it's the first-time home buyers are the ones who are actually moving the market. And if they can afford to get off the rent merry-go-round and buy a home, the chain moves forward. A few links so that the seller can buy their second home, that seller can buy their third home, and so forth. And it's really an amazing time right now. And if you're wondering if you should move forward, do the math between rent and ownership. Please get pre-qualified and look around. As many of my first-timers are engaged, they're putting sometimes the big date off until they can settle on their home. And you know what? Good for them. So before we jump into today's topic, I want to thank my sponsors because, again, without them, I wouldn't be able to chat with you today. So Bucks Mountain Inspections, Rob Bowie, he's out of Sellersville, Pennsylvania, extremely knowledgeable when it comes to on-site sewage systems, evaluation, testing, and repair. And you can find him at 215-669-4213 or at bucksmountaininspections.com. Burrow Exterminating out of Glen Olden, Pennsylvania. Again, I've been seeing a lot of Burrow as we've been out there hitting the road. So they do termite and radon testing. They're at 610-586-5640. And their website is burrowexterminating.com. Pest Blaster. I've been seeing Mike Canner a lot, and a lot of people are checking for mold. And I don't know if it's because it's just seasonably warm and damp, But when people are walking into their homes and their nostrils start to flare a little bit, they've been calling pest specialists to get their homes tested for mold. But they also do radon testing, wood-destroying insect evaluations and treatment, but also pest removal. So you can reach out to these folks at 215-295-5555, and their website is pestblaster.com. BrainFlushGear.com. Folks, I am a week away of taking a few days off, and I'm wearing my Brain Flush gear up to Maine. So they put it together for me, and I appreciate all their hard work. And their email is contact@brainflushgear.com. Tri-County Inspection Company, thank you, Barry, last week for the reminder that we had turned 30 years old on July 12th.
Yeah.
So it's just a wonderful time, and I can't thank my staff enough for helping us be as successful as we are. Our website is tcinspect.com. Local phone number, folks, in Bucks and Montgomery County, 215-295-2030. The Lehigh Valley, 610-346-7880. South Jersey, 856-853-4224. So as always, please let them know that you heard their ad on the House Whisperer Show. So, the email box is also heating up. Version 8 will be on the horizon soon, I promise. Please email me your thoughts at thehousewhisperershow@gmail.com. Visit previous shows at thehousewhisperershow.com. I advise my clients every day to visit the site before they make any major changes to their home, as I've spoken on over more than 150 topics, and one may just suit you. And finally, www.dbam.com, the podcast available 24/7 from Sunday to Sunday. If you miss the show, you can always hear it again. So let's get started. Here we are in the midst of July, and again, it's National Safety Month. So many topics and so little time. So let's think of the very first thing: smoke alarms. Smoke alarms must, and I have to emphasize this, must be changed every 10 years. Do the math, and if you don't remember how old they are, and they chirp constantly even though you've replaced the batteries, and if you've noticed that they've changed from white when you purchase them to mustard color, let them go. Denny Electric, Billows, or any other electrical supply company can sell you multiple detectors at a better cost than those at the other box stores, and replace them now. And keep in mind that you want a smoke alarm, at least one per floor, and preferably one per bedroom. So please take a look around. I always did mine over the July 4th holiday. And it's an easy way for me to remember to do that. It gives me an extra day, although this was a kind of a funny year where it was on Saturday. But I did them anyway. I did them on Sunday. Now, how about carbon monoxide detectors? Now, if you heat by electric, in other words, electric baseboard heat, heat pumps, etc., you can skip this section of the show. But if you heat with oil, gas, or propane, a carbon monoxide detector should be installed by the equipment. If it's in a closet, if it's in the basement, even if it's sometimes off an attic. But you also want to do the top floor of your home, preferably by a cold air return. Now, carbon monoxide is fairly heavy, so for some reason I particularly like the plug-in carbon monoxide detectors because they'll still have the battery backup. They're fairly low. They're 18 inches off the floor. But if you have a CO detector at the very top of a vaulted ceiling, like a house that I inspected last week, guess what, folks? That will not work, okay? So when it does chirp, replace the battery, backup. 9-volt batteries, folks, by the way, can be bought in bulk, and a few minutes can truly save your family's life. What about the electric panel box? Honestly, have you ever labeled your circuits? Does your wife and older children or significant other even know how to shut the house down in an emergency? And keep in mind, guys, most house fires start at the panel and can spread quickly. So you need to take the time to educate your adult children who may be home alone after school as to all the important items of your home. And this may not only be the main disconnect to the electric panel box, but it also could be your water main shutoff too. So if something goes awry, I had a circumstance a number of years ago where one of my son's friends overflowed the toilet on the second floor, and they didn't know what to do. So fortunately, I was able to take some corrective action. I had to replace some drywall. But at the end of the day, if your children are home from school and they're 12 or 13, 14 and older, they should know where some of these crucial items are in your home. Now, if you're a homeowner who takes showers, and of course I hope most of us do, and you look up and you see a bath fan and a light combination in your shower, you have to determine if it's ground fault protected. In other words, GFCI'd. Water to this electrical device can lead to electrocution if it's not. So please find out. Get out of the shower. Test the GFCI that's going to be by your sink or in an adjacent bathroom. And if it does not shut the fan off, please call an electrician to make the change. As an inspector, I'm seeing this more and more, and the code folks are blowing it off. And it basically leaves the answer to the manufacturer's specifications. And if you're like any of us who are relatively handy and know how to do things, do you honestly read the instructions? Come on. So, you can save yourself and you can save your bride for a few $100.
Hey, Jack, we have a little break coming up, but you're doing a show that could very well save some lives. You never know.
Well, bottom line, Barry, some of the codes that are out there right now don't really make sense. And, of course, your home inspector is not a code enforcement officer. So I like Barry's timing. Let's take a break real quick, and you'll be right back with the House Whisperer Show where we're talking about July, which is safety month.
We sure will be back. Don't go away.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today, and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperer Show.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 30 years. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295 855-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They have performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They are licensed in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. Call 215-295-2030 or 856-853-4224.
As the temperatures gradually rise, so do the odds of all those filthy and unwanted critters invading your home, like rodents, roaches, termites, and flies. Oh my! This summer, if you want to feel safe and secure from a possible creeping, crawling disaster, do yourself a favor and call the exterminating experts at Pest Blaster for all your pest control needs, including tests for radon and mold. Please visit pestblaster.com and you'll be sold. 215-295-5555.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house.
Okay, we are back with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer, here at WWDB. Very important program. I hope you're listening and listen to the podcast again, because you don't want to miss one thing that he's saying, talking about safety. Let's get back to Jack.
Well, thank you, Barry. And, before the break, we were talking about this combination of light and fan in your shower environment. And even if that fan extends halfway into the shower, to me, it's an electrical device that must be ground fault protected. So let's talk about GFCIs for a minute. Ground fault circuit interrupters, those funny circuited receptacles that we find in our garage, our basement, our bathrooms, and kitchens, can save your life as long as they work. And if they don't work, it risks a chance of electrocution. And folks, it's as bold and straightforward as that. So once a month, I ask all my clients to test the GFCI by pushing, it will actually say on it, the test button, and it should trip. And if it doesn't, replace them. It's that simple. They're only about $12 today, so they're cheap. They used to be around $25 to $30 in the 1980s, but they've really, really come down in price. And do me a favor, because it drives me crazy, do not put GFCIs on GFCIs. So in other words, you don't need a ground fault circuit interrupter in every bathroom, because most of these are linked together. So if you can find your lead GFCI, the one that's closest to the electric panel box, and you turn that one off, verify that it shuts off the receptacles on the either side of the kitchen sink, or go to your bathrooms and make sure that they're turned off too. But do me a favor and do not put a refrigerator and or freezer, which you may find in your garage, on a GFCI. Because when you're dealing with compressors, they deal with loads. Those loads can trip a ground fault circuit interrupter, which can spoil the food, spoil those frozen goods, or at absolute worst, spoil the beer. So when I tell my clients, if you're going to put a refrigerator in the garage, it should be on a 20-amp circuit, individual from everything else in the house, and please not on a GFCI. Now, if you live in an older home, ground fault protection was not required, but they can be added to kitchens and bathrooms rather easily. So simple things like this can save your life, but they must be tested, and they have to be replaced when necessary. So keep in mind, GFCIs will also work on ungrounded circuits too. So if you're living in Northeast Philadelphia, that old 2-prong receptacle in your bathroom, you can place a GFCI in this location, and it will work. Now, one thing I enjoy doing once a year is meeting with the fire marshals, and they're talking about today what we call double locking deadbolts. Now, if you need a key to unlock your exit door from the inside, please install a thumb latch. In a fire, you're going to be crawling to get to the exit ways, and you don't want to be thinking about where you left the key. So please, guys, these locks are antiquated and should be removed. Now, here's a good one. I like this one. When did you last clean your dryer vent? And I've got people like, oh, my God, probably never. 19,000 dryer fires last year. And, keep in mind, if you're single or a young couple, the dryer may be run maybe every week or two. But if you have kids, that washer and dryer are running continually. And you know what I'm talking about. The dryer is never turned off. And lint is flammable. Now, everyone thinks about the little lint screen, that's by the door or it's on top of the unit. But I'm not. I'm talking about where it vents to the exterior. And it's amazing how when I do mine once a year, because I have got 2 boys, it's amazing how much lint comes out of the vent. So I try to advise my clients when they're buying a home to use your anniversary date, and not the wedding one, but your move-in date to clean and clear the dryer vent. And every client, I tell them to do it upon possession as well, because you have no idea and no history as to if and when the seller may have done it. So I always tell my clients my day to clean the dryer vent is the Friday after Thanksgiving, as I take a day off. So a couple years ago I did mine, and I could tell within the next 24 hours that I actually backed it up. I didn't clear it out. So I usually use my shop vac, which you can draw in but also blow out. And here I ended up with this wad of lint at the midpoint. So now I went heavy duty, and I disconnected my dryer vent from behind the dryer. I actually vent into my garage through a full extension to the outside wall. So I disconnected it. I got out my leaf blower. It's got one of the big 4-inch ends on it. Stuck it in one end, and, man, I created art on the other side of my garage wall. And it was just amazing how much lint still came out of that vent. If you have a gas dryer, it's much more critical to clean it than it is an electric dryer vent. But also, if you use Mylar, and that's that silvery kind of slinky stuff or white plastic, you must, and I'm emphasizing this, must use rigid tubing. Rigid tubing is what you may find over top of your gas furnace or your water heater, although that's probably 3-inch, and you got to use 4-inch. And you want to try to keep your runs as straight as possible, and keep in mind every bend adds 5 feet to the length of the discharge line. A dryer can vent 30 feet with minimal bends. Now, if you own an electric dryer, the risk is not as high, but everybody, you got to look to see where your dryer vents to the exterior, and if those flaps don't open or the humidity is as high as a hot July day in your laundry room, you know what, folks, it's time to clean the vent. I read something the other day where almost 70% of most homeowners use the garage door as their primary way of getting into their home. What I'd like you to do, if you own garage door openers, is push the button, okay, and stand by the door and offer resistance to the door as it travels down. I kind of stand to the side. I open my palm up, and right about the midpoint, I offer resistance. If it does not stop, let it go, okay, because you could break something. But the important point of this is that you have to adjust it. Now, sometimes we'll see lasers. Oldest doors from like the mid-1980s, maybe to the early 1990s, did not have the laser. The laser, if you cross the beam, retracts the door. Some manufacturers count specifically on the lasers to track the door and to retract the door. And those are those gear-driven genies, okay? If you own one of these older genies without the lasers, please replace them, please, because children have been hurt or worse, killed. Animals have been killed because they get trapped under the door. So something that we really take for granted needs to be checked periodically. And if you have a more modern LiftMaster, Craftsman, there's a lot of good manufacturers of garage doors. Most of them will have a set of what I call tuners. They're little knobs that are white, blue, or yellow. And if you take your pocket screwdriver and you calibrate them back to, I always tell my clients, use the clock, to 3:30, push the button, stand up alongside the door, let it track down, and let it come back up, then you're good to go. Child safety is critical with garage doors, and it's one of those little things that we always take for granted. And if you don't remember when you last tested your garage door opener, do it today, okay? Because, again, if it's a 16-foot wood door, they weigh in excess of 800 pounds. So you don't want that door to crush or hurt people or animals. The other thing I tell my clients to look for is safety cables between the springs. So if you have the old tension springs that run from the edge of the garage door to about the midpoint of your garage, safety cables run about $12. And what they do is you can lash them between some of the holes of your garage door frame, the metal work, put it through the spring, and then loop it a few times through the angle iron at the other end of the spring. If those springs ever break and they get launched against the building, it's like a shotgun. And a good friend of mine who's a general contractor had it happen to him. And fortunately, he was wearing a heavy leather jacket when the spring hit him in the back, and it tore up the jacket. Today, I spoke on many simple things that are in most homes, and all I can ask is please do me a favor and pass the words, because the lives you save may be your own as well as a family member, and life is busy, so don't forget the simple things. But next week, we're going to bring on Phil Getty from Boucher & James to discuss plants and how they can both be beneficial but also detrimental. So, actually, to the health of your home. So as it is Sunday, please spend time with friends and family, and I look forward to talking to you next week on the House Whisperers Show.
All right, thank you, Jack Milne, and tune in again next week for another edition of the House Whisperers Show with professional home inspector Jack Milne. And to listen to previous programs, or if you have any questions, visit thehousewhisperershow.com. Barry Reisman here. Thank you for listening to WWDB.